Om Tat Sat. My humble prostrations to the all-pervading Brahman, to my worshipful Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji Maharaj, to sage Narada and all sages and saints, and to each of you divine soul watching today's satsang. So today we will be covering part number 2 of Sutra number 49 from chapter 2, which is Glory of Supreme Devotion of the Narada Bhakti Sutras. Commentaries by my Guruji, Swami Jyotirmayanandaji, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So let's get started on part 2 of Sutra number 49. We were talking about Anuraga. So this is the attainment of divine love, which has three aspects. Avichinna Anuraga, which means the three aspects to get to that state are the number one. First one is called Kevalam, which means only, unalloyed or single-minded. So a devotee sees the world rooted in oneself, that is non-dual, and he discovers his own identity as that self. He renounces the vision of duality. The divine beloved alone permeates this universe. Therefore, where is there room for the likes and dislikes of the ego? So they're just trying to get to that single pointed devotion. The second one is called avichinnam, which means unbroken flow of devotion. Just like you pour oil from one bottle to another, it goes in an uninterrupted manner, unbroken manner. When the consciousness is filled with divine impressions, a peaceful stream of love flows in an uninterrupted succession in the heart of the devotee. So this is where that nectar starts to pour in, the bhakti starts to develop. Remember, this is not just devotion, we have to get to supreme devotion, which is called prashanta vahita, peaceful flow by a Raj Yogi. So when you are a Raj Yogi, that is the process of meditation. It's called Prashanta Vahita and Brahmakara Vritti, which means the flow is now towards Brahman by a Jnana Yogi, and that is termed as Avichinnam. So these are some technical terms and we have to have patience to understand the depth, but they're very deep. And if we are following them sincerely, we should understand that how they work. So a Jnana Yogi is termed Avichinnam, which means the bhakti, unbroken flow of devotion by the Bhakti Yogi. Just as glaciers melt in the rays of the sun and then they flow on as rivers into the ocean, the heart of a devotee melts in the shining rays of love, and his very life flows on in the ocean of divine beloved. What a beautiful analogy. Just like the ice by itself is very solid and strong, but when the rays of the sun come, it starts to melt and the rivers is full of energy, whereas the ice by itself is full of inertia. So therefore the divine love works the same way. And the third one is called anuragam, which means ever increasing love. It keeps on growing. In the case of worldly love, a person becomes increasingly aware of dependence and attachments to objects. We know those things, and consequently finds his vision of love gradually waning from view. But in the case of spiritual love is parabhakti, he becomes increasingly detached from the illusory objects of the world. So he's no longer even attached to those things and finds his inner vision of love waxing like the moon day by day. He becomes attached to the divine self, and that's what the whole goal of the exercise is, because the force of love removes the veil of illusion, and that's what we want to do, remove the illusion of Maya. Therefore he sees nothing but the self, and his attachment to the divine beloved turns into an uninterrupted communion, mystic communion. The life of a devotee is like that of a river that has merged into the ocean, and yet continues to flow onto the ocean. Just like there are parts of the river that are now in the ocean and the others that are continuing to go on. So it's singing the praises of divine communion for the struggling souls. So even though the devotee himself is now in the consciousness of the ocean and enjoying that nectar, but yet the part that is full of energy and running towards the ocean is satsanga, meeting sages and saints, and then sage Narada giving these teachings to the rest of the world so they can also enjoy that nectar and do divine communion, divine love. So that was the essence of this sutra, and we will be covering sutra number 50 tomorrow. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Om Tat Sat.